This is another Total War mod overview of one of the underrated mods for Total War Rome 2, known as Constantine the Rise of Christianity. And it's very similar to the DLC that Total War came out with called Empire Divided. Because Empire Divided was about, the crisis of the 3rd century in Aurelian. But this mod focuses more on what happens a couple, number of decades after this, known as the Tetrarchy, and it's the second movement of the Tetrarchy that it's concerned with. And as if you read Roman history, Diocletian created the Tetrarchy alongside Maxentius or Maximian, as well as Constantius Chlorus and Galerius. And when they died, new men took power in the Tetrarchy. So here are the factions. We have Maxentius Augustus, who is the ruler of Italy and Carthage, and in history he was actually a usurper because he was really seen as a legitimate Augustus by the other members of the Tetrarchy. So we have Maxentius, you can play as him. Of course, in the east you have the burgeoning Sassanid Empire, ruled by Shapur II, who will wage countless wars on the Romans in centuries to come. Then you have Armenia. We have the Goths and the Franks, two Germanic tribes that keep on invading Rome. We also have Licinius, another Tetrarch who takes over what is now Greece, Bulgaria, and the Balkans. And Licinius would actually hold the empire and divide it with Constantine after they defeated their rivals, but it wasn't long for Licinius to fight against Constantine. Then you have Maximinus Daia Augustus, who rules over the very far east of the empire, and he is the heir to Galerius. And he was actually the last person in history to have recorded claiming the title of Pharaoh. Then you have Constantine himself ruling over the west. You have Britannic tribes, African kingdoms, like the Dalmatians, Picts. We have some Arabians as well, a tribe from Yemen. And then we have the Huns, who are just over here at this time. So let's just jump in here. There's a couple of interesting characters we can play as. Foremost being Constantine, of course, but what originally happened was, after the death or the retirement of Diocletian, the west was actually taken by Constantine due to the fact that his father had proclaimed him as Augustus or Caesar. While in the east, a guy named Galerius, who was the ruler at the time, adopted Maximinus Daia to become his successor. And then we have Licinius, who was the guy that would take over Greece, and Maxentius. And unlike the original Tetrarchy, these guys were more hostile towards each other. The original one, of course, was Diocletian and many of his comrades who took over parts of the empire, but now their heirs fight over it. Of course, you have the whole intro that I will not get into. So, if you play as Constantine, the first thing you have to do is fight against Maxentius, who has declared war on you. So you must march your legions down, and take control of Italy itself. Maxentius Augustus is at war with you, and then you also have barbarians on all sides looking to bite at the first opportunity. Now, one of the interesting things about this mod is also the whole overhaul that they made with the units. They completely converted the units to that of the late Empire, to have more like Palatina cohorts and Legio Comitatenses and those kind of units that were instituted after the reforms of the Emperor Diocletian. You even have Federati, as you can tell. Is technology different? No, it's the same. So war with Maxentius is your first goal as Constantine. Are there historical characters here as well? No, there are not. Let's see if I seek a spouse. Okay, so there aren't as many historical characters as Furious Caebo. There's Dalmatius. Clovis. Well, that's that for Constantine. Let's just exit. And let's jump in as... Yeah, you can tell, see, those are the different units. One of the interesting guys I want to play is Dia, because Dia seems like he's in a interesting position as well, because you're surrounded by Licinius as well as the Assassinates, so that's definitely an interesting character. Let's look at the units. If you have them in a battle, they're completely different units than that of the early empire of the popular imagination. These are Spartans. Yeah, Spartans. Yeah. Interesting fact that Chiro was what Constantine had his troops paint the symbol before the Battle of the Milvian Bridge against Maxentius, who Constantine defeated. Let's see. Maximinus Dia. So, he had campaigned against the Sassanids as well, and he took to the east, but unfortunately his relationship with Licinius was very unfriendly, and they would end up going to war. In history, Licinius was able to defeat Dia and assume full control over the eastern provinces. So Dia over here, where is he? Maximinus Dia rules over Nicomedia. And you are surrounded by hostile factions. We have the Sasanian Empire to the east, powerful state. You have Maxentius, who doesn't really like you either. Then you have Licinius, who doesn't like you either. So pretty much everybody hates you. Now let's jump in as the other Tetrarch. I'm just going to focus on the situations of the Tetrarchs. Let's just leave like all the other factions out of it, because they're probably not as interesting to play as. Most people will play this for Constantine, but it's a really cool situation if you want to play as other Tetrarchs and maybe like create your own alt history through this. That's what's really cool about these mods, is that you can pretty much relive history through it. Despite the fact that, of course, you know, this mod is kind of old, but it actually still lasted since its development, you know, 5-6 years ago. It's basically like the Empire Divided DLC. So he's a childhood friend of the recently deceased Emperor Galerius, but unfortunately he had to reach an agreement with Dia. What's the objective? Treachery. So, if you're coming in as Licinius Augustus, you have Dia, the unfriendly Dia, to your east. You have Maxentius to your west. Maxentius is at war with Constantine, so you are left to deal with the Dia yourself. There are quite a few armies here. So that's the Emperor Gaius Licinius. I think a really cool mod would be having what happens after Constantine's death, the sons of Constantine, because they also fight it out for the Empire as well. That'd definitely be an interesting one. Kind of like the successor to this mod. Now over here we have Maxentius, the son of Maximian, who had been one of the co-emperors with Diocletian. Unfortunately, though, Maximian would, if you read the history, he kind of just goes back and forth between the tensions between all the different guys claiming to be power. He would come here, betray there. But Maxentius Augustus, he's more of a usurper. And Maxentius was actually able to defend Italy from like multiple other claimants to the title of Augustus as well. So coming in, you basically just have Italy under your control, as well as Africa and some of the islands. But you're at war against a man likely more powerful than you, Constantine. You have Licinius and then Dia, of course, but they're likely not relevant.
Ready for battle.
But most of all, though, you control Rome. I like how they renamed the settlement to Ravenna. But this is kind of our overview on this mod. We'll see you all in a different video.